You know who's got 2 thumbs and is going to milk the Epic Games fiasco for everything it's worth? I guess not me. I don't have thumbs. Do you know who has a popsicle stick and is going to milk the Epic Games Store fiasco for everything it's worth? Yes, I am talking about the Epic Games Store again. The only other thing I can talk about repeatedly other than the Epic Games Store is my ex, so that's saying a lot. But the YouTube algorithm system basically told me to go screw myself. So now I have to find a way to squeeze myself back into it. And if it's talking about the Epic Games Store, then goddammit, I'm talking about the Epic Games Store. And hell, if that doesn't work, I could always resort to the old cheap anti-SJW video with 0 effort, and then I could just start blowing up, but I'm not ready to sell out yet. I'm trying to remain interesting for you, okay? I don't want to turn out to be like the quarter pounder with cheese, okay? No matter how hard I try, it would be impossible for me to insert SJWs into every daily topic of my life. I can't even do it with console peasants. The biggest controversy to hit PC gaming in the last decade has easily got to be the Epic Games Store. It has been the topic at hand for months. Every week we're finding out about some shitty thing Epic Games Store is doing, to the point that now I've compiled everything into a timeline, a journey of the sorts. Because the Epic Games Store has failed on every aspect of being a storefront and a boon to PC gaming. The Epic Store has not helped PC gaming in the slightest. And there's a lot of people out there like, oh Frit, you just jumped on the Epic Games Store hate bandwagon because it became popular. Not true, far from it. When the Epic Games Store was first announced, I thought to myself, hey everybody, let's take it easy on them. They're new, it's gonna take some time, but once they get the groove of things, they're gonna provide good competition to Steam. And I'd hate to say it, but I was wrong. I was damn wrong. Upon its announcement, Epic Games promised a revenue split that would be incredibly beneficial to developers and publishers. This got them brownie points with not just the industry, but PC gamers themselves. But at the time, we didn't realize that that revenue split would only be temporary, and that it really wasn't all that impressive considering the fact that 30%, which is what Steam takes, is actually very low by industry standards. Being told that developers would receive 88% of revenue caught the minds of a lot of greedy corporations. And we'll get to those corporations' greed and how far they've gone with it. They promised to have a direct relationship with players, they promised to connect with creators, they promised developers full control of their game pages, which has backfired a lot by the way. They promised that all engines were welcomed and that it would be guaranteed success for your game to be on the Epic Games Store. This is all fine and dandy, but even upon revealing the Epic Games Store, there was not a single mention of the features that would come with this storefront. All that was announced was a storefront, and people were ready. We were ready for a company with a ton of money and status to go head to head with Steam. All of us were anticipating to see what the possibilities could be. And not once was anybody weary of the fact that there was no announcements on any unique features or utilities that this storefront would provide, because we all had the idea that they would go along with the industry standard of being a fully functional storefront upon release. It was the expectation, and because of this, nobody was prepared for what was about to happen. Days after announcement, the Epic Games Store launched, and it launched bare bones, missing more features than the Discord game store, more features than even, say, Nintendo eShop Online. You had no shopping cart, you had no messaging system, there was no regional pricing, there were no achievements, no guides, no forums. The store launched with no quality for the consumer in mind, and this immediately brought about some negative attention. But the negative attention really wasn't that bad. A lot of people just assumed, oh well, the store will get itself together and eventually it'll become a place that you can use more than Steam. After all, this is a storefront backed by Epic Games, and these guys are worth billions. What reason would they not have to update this storefront and make it the best place possible to play your games? Then the truth slowly started to unveil. It was announced that Metro Exodus would be an Epic Store exclusive, and because of this, the game was taken off of Steam at the last minute, which of course angered a large percentage of the PC gaming community, who were not happy with such an anti-consumer move, and things started to down spiral from there. It was becoming quickly evident that the Epic Games Store wasn't interested in updating their own storefront or making their own games. Their full intentions were to follow the console gaming practices. The practices of buying out games and having them locked to your platform exclusively. This practice further cemented hatred towards the Epic Games Store, but it got worse from there. It was then announced that the Outer Worlds would be released exclusively on the Epic Games Store, then followed by Borderlands 3, and then followed by the David Cage walking simulator boring games that really don't have gameplay. Announcement after announcement made of games going exclusively to the Epic Games Store, giving consumers no option. There was not a single bit of good news coming out of this storefront, which was alerting to consumers and gamers. They knew that this was a sketchy place. Then things started getting really bad. News of Epic Games treating their employees like shit and overworking them and harassing them were coming into the limelight. And then the non-stop auto defense of people like Randy Pitchford on Twitter telling consumers to basically suck a dick. They were going with the Epic Games Store and we had to accept it. Pulling off some of the worst PR stunts anyone has ever seen. Nothing but controversies. And every week following the release of the Epic Games Store was just clouded with skepticism. But amongst all of this, the only ones to remain confident, the last ones standing on the side with Epic Games, were the developers, the publishers, and the corporations. You see, it's strange because these are the people who wanted to put their full faith into Epic Games. A lot of these developers claimed, hey, we went with the Epic Games Store because that's where we're gonna make the most amount of money. It's about the money. They wouldn't tell you that up front. Instead, they would beat around the bush and they would tell you, no, it's because we want to improve your experience. This storefront is the best for you and our game and your personal experience. Feeding you lie after lie, making excuses for the Epic Games Store, and then followed by the defenders of these companies and developers. You had people online telling you, Epic Games will improve over time. Quit nagging, quit whining, who cares about the controversies? And the funny thing is that in the end, the Epic Games Store has failed PC gamers, the PC platform, and you as a consumer. The only people that the Epic Games Store has not failed are the developers, and that's to an extent. Because now we get to see the true intentions and the true greediness that comes from the industry. Their desire for money and a storefront's desperation to reach the top. Tim Sweeney basically tried pinpointing all of this anti-consumer bullshit as the fault of Steam. He blatantly told people online that if they didn't want to see this anti-consumer exclusivity bullshit, that Steam needed to lower its revenue split. A dirty tactic, a move of basically trying to throw shade at Steam and basically telling people who are upset about the whole situation, this is Steam's fault, even though we clearly don't need to be doing these practices, but if we put it on Steam, people will eat it up. And people ate it up. By God, did people eat it up, including the industry. And then you had more people putting their faith into the Epic Games Store. Now comes the interesting bits. Epic Games wanted to have their first sale. Whoopee! We're supposed to treat this as some grand thing to celebrate, but in all reality, a sale is nothing new to PC gamers. But it was Epic Games' first sale. And my God, the incompetence is unreal. And the attempt to seem pro-consumer and on the side of gamers, Epic Games gave off an illusion that games on their side would be cheaper. And how did they try doing this? By claiming that they would knock $10 off any game at the price range of $14.99. This included games that were not released yet, and they even tried making it seem like it was a good Samaritan thing and that they were going to eat the price of the sale and that wouldn't go to the developers. They would put down the money it cost to make that sale. You'd think this is a good thing, right? But when you have greedy developers and greedy companies and publishers that you've been catering to and pampering and turning your anus around so that they can cockfuck you up the ass every day, you create entitled customers. See, they wanted to go to the Epic Games Store to make more money, but not at the cost of devaluing their games, to artificially make them look cheaper upon release. And even more problems would arise from the fact that after this sale was over, it would look like there was a price hike to these games, which made a lot of developers not very happy. And a lot more of that anger came from the fact that there was no communication between Epic Games and the developers about this sale. They did not know, and they had no option to opt out. The only option that they had was to temporarily remove any pre-purchases or pre-orders of their games off the Epic Games Store, so that consumers wouldn't be led on to believe that the game would be that price at all times. Funny how that is, isn't it? It's very funny how all these developers tell you, hey, the Epic Games Store is gonna be good for you. And then the Epic Games Store, tries doing something good while admittedly failing miserably at it. So bad, but they tried. And developers undermining and saying, no, we don't want to do that. Even though we promised people for months on end that the Epic Games Store was going to do good stuff for the industry and for consumers. And here's Epic Games trying to do it and these developers saying, no. Amazing, isn't it? You end up going to a storefront thinking it would be amazing for you, only to find out that they're doing stuff without your own permission and you have to take your game off the store page so that people aren't tricked. The fact that there's a lack of communication between Epic and the customers that they are serving, which is two customers, people buying their games and people using their storefront to publish their games. They have failed both because, hold your horses, it gets even better. We are currently sitting in the month of May, and the Epic Games Store has still not implemented a shopping cart, meaning that if you wanted to take advantage of the sale that they had going on at the time, you would have to individually buy each game one by one. You couldn't pick and choose, put them in a shopping cart, and make a single purchase from there. Pure incompetence and laziness from a billion-dollar corporation. But unfortunately, if you bought too many games that way, it would lead the Epic Games Store into blocking your account. It doesn't get worse than this, as far as I know. I've done my best to compile just the absolute abysmal launch of this storefront. I cannot think of another marketplace that launched without the basic necessities to be a functioning storefront, to be a place where people can purchase their games At the very least, the Epic Games Store has failed on all fronts. Every single front, the Epic Games Store has failed people. Their lack of professionalism, their lack of support. The most they've done is pulled out their massive cock, because they have a massive cock, let's be honest. It's not as big as mine, but Epic Games has a massive cock. They pulled it out and waved it in Steam's face, and they attracted all the ladies. Then the ladies went over to the Epic Games Store's mansion, because you know, the Epic Games Store has a gigantic mansion. They hopped into bed with the Epic Games Store, and then Epic Games didn't tell those ladies, oh, I have genital herpes, by the way. A true story, a long time ago, I met a girl on Tinder, and we were talking for weeks on end, and God, she was hot. And she was amazing, loved Queen, loved David Bowie, loved Pink Floyd, played the guitar, was a PC gamer that built her own rig, and I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. Then the next thing you know, when I want to set up a date with her, after weeks of getting to know her and talking to her, she tells me, look, I didn't want to tell you, but this whole time, truth is, I do have genital herpes, and I hope you're okay with that. Bitch, what? Evil woman wouldn't tell me till the last minute? Off topic, completely off topic, but the Epic Games Store has followed a similar trend or arc, getting people's hopes up and disappointing them. And that's not unusual for a corporation to do. It's not out of the norm for companies to pull off stunts like this and disappoint you and me and even the industry in the process. It's not unusual. What is unusual is when you decide not to shape up and get better. What's unusual is that you get progressively worse. Because when you launch a storefront, the only thing you can do is continuously improve it. But with the Epic Games Store, they've broken the mold. They've made everyone question whether success comes from hard work at this point. Because Epic Games Store did none of the following. They didn't launch functioning, and they still don't function properly. They've broken the trust that they promised to establish with developers. They've done fuck all to support consumers who buy games on their platform, and they've done nothing to help the industry. By all accounts, the Epic Games Store is a failure. They're not pulling in any money. They're losing. They've been losing for months now. They couldn't even manage to do a game sale. In the attempt of trying to do something nice, they screwed everyone else around them because of their incompetence, because of their lack of care. They launched with the full intentions of buying as many games as they could and locking them down to their platform and thinking that was going to be enough to get them some clout. But in the end, it's been their greatest downfall, because upon doing this, they have done nothing to improve themselves. And when they have tried to improve themselves, it was a big middle finger to everyone else. This story will be documented for years to come. I don't personally think that the Epic Games Store will become the next Games for Windows Live. I don't think they're gonna end up shutting down, but I don't believe they're going to become that big monster that they thought they were. They're not going to become the next Steam. It takes hard work. So we thought anyway, but Epic Games isn't putting in the work to try and earn people's trust and their money. This is probably the last time I'm ever going to talk about Epic Games. I think just telling you all of these events and leading to this grand finale of failure sums up everything about how anti-consumerism can fuck you over. Not just you as a consumer, but the company itself. But let's look at the bright side. Well, there's none actually. So I think I'm gonna end the video there. Sorry to end it on such a gloomy, down note, but what can I say? That's the industry. That's how things are right now. It's not gonna get better, not with the growth of gaming. So all I can tell you is enjoy what you have now, because the future isn't gonna get any better. Just like my YouTube career hasn't gotten any better, with YouTube striking down on me and unsubbing people from me. I've been getting DMs of people telling me, hey, YouTube unsubbed you from me. Also, YouTube is demonetizing me like crazy. But damn it, I refuse to have my voice silenced. I mean, I'm an asshole. I don't really deserve a microphone. Nobody deserves a microphone. You gotta earn your own voice and your own microphone. But that's why I want to earn it through your trust. So if you can hit the subscribe button, you'll get endless nudes of me. I really shouldn't promise that. Anyways, till then, I'll be seeing all of you and your gorgeous, sexy faces very soon.
Fritanga sucks ass.